Okay, this brings us to the last talk. Chaiti's talk should have been after Palayamanna's yesterday. Scheduling things, we scheduled him on 2 different days. Palayamanna was voting strongly for traditional fishermen's rights and knowledge and stuff like that. Very heartfelt appeal. So Chaiti, 2 different things I'll say. One is Chaiti has done something which very people are even aware of, which is that he has studied wolves in India. Now, most people don't even know there are wolves in India. They don't do things they associate. But his PhD was on wolves and human interactions, and so yeah, there's a fascinating area of work. But now he lives in the city, and so he and his partner Divya, who is also another PhD in the area of fishing, something, okay, former turtle walker, known for a long time, have set up something called in-season fish, right? In-season fish. And so he'll tell you what it is about. But for me, it's an area which is close to my heart because as a turtle walker, one closely associates with the fishing community, traditional fishing communities. And now 25 years of associating with them and seeing them highly disempowered, marginalized, pushed to the verge of being wiped out of the cityscape, and seeing their state. And oftentimes, like turtle conservation and fishing seems to be in a contradictory state. These are conflicting interests. But actually, our conflict is not with the small scale fishermen, and our conflict is with only the large scale fishing. And don't know how many forums to make this clear, and how to each fisherman we have to say, listen, we are not your enemy, we are not fighting you, we are fighting the much larger scale thing. So this whole project is very close to the heart of conservation itself and us, to see like this organic farming and sustainable farming and so on and so forth, that something like this needs to come into people's awareness. But what this is, he will say.
Thank you, Arun. And yeah, very happy to be here talking about our work today. Just one small clarification. I was really interested to study wolves, and that's why I went to grasslands, but I ended up studying black buck, which is sort of by proxy because a lot of wolves do feed on black buck. Yeah, but it's a fascinating landscape. This is especially the semi-arid grasslands of central India. You have wolves, you have black buck, you have foxes, you have bustards, you have harriers, which are migratory, like Shiva was talking yesterday earlier about the migratory birds. So if you haven't been, you should definitely go and just get a sense of, and it's a sea of grasslands with punctuated by trees here and there, and yeah, that's about what I did earlier, like Arun said. So in-season fish, like Arun said, was set up. We co-founded by my partner Divya and myself, and it was basically to just connect seafood consumers with small-scale fishermen, and together, from the consumer end and from also the, like Arun mentioned, the producers of seafood, which are the fishermen in this case. How do you connect them, and how do you work together for healthy oceans, basically? So here, if you consider seafood, it meets the protein requirements of about 1.35 billion people globally. So just to give you a scale of how important it is as a resource for us, it also supports a number of livelihoods all across India's coastline. you'll have fishing hamlets, and this is also true across the world as well. And also it's they can also survive for their own sake. I mean, they're wildlife and they're part of the ecosystem. They're incredibly important for the ecosystem to function normally, to function in a healthy manner. And these, and particularly seafood, also supports the lots of other species such as birds and sharks and the other components of the marine ecosystem itself. But if you look at the global seafood, the harvest or the amount of seafood that's been caught, if you look from 1950 to 2010, it peaked in about mid 1960s, and then it's just steadily downhill. So the resource is, we are basically fishing out the oceans. And this is also similarly the case for the Indian seafood. The peak was a little later because the mechanization in India happened later. But then you can see after 2000, it's again a story of declines. So you have this incredibly important source of food, important source of livelihoods, important, it's also, we need healthy oceans for other things to regulate global climate and so on. And one of the major components of the life itself in the oceans is declining. And one of the major reasons that is given is overfishing. So you have all these, so that's a documentary, and this is the narrative is that fishing is the culprit. But Arun said, so what you see here is, the trawlers, they are the mechanized or the so-called industrial fishers. But fishing actually is very, very diverse. So this, is a Chinese fishing net. So you just put that inside the water and then you wait for a couple of hours, you lift it up. Whatever you catch whatever is there in the net is what is available. This is, you can see a small scale fisherman. He's using an oar. So it's mechanical power. There's no motor, there's no fuel that is being used. Then this is again, you see, this is a cast net. This is again, a very small scale fisherman. So this is the mechanized. You can see the outboard motors on both those boats. So that's the motor, but these are the FRP boats. You will see them across the coast of Tamil Nadu. Every fishing kupam, most fishing kupams have these boats, but still the fishing trips are really short, just a couple of hours. They'll go in the morning, they'll come back in 3-4 hours, or they'll go in the night, they'll put out their nets, they'll come back in. They'll leave it there for some time and then they'll come back. And even to pull the boats, you can see the fishermen are sort of pulling it by hand. And now this has been mechanized. You'll have tractors which have been modified for this. And this is a different kind. This is a shore scene. You have a net that goes out, but all the pulling of whatever is caught happens by hand. So this also happens in particular seasons. They can't do it all through the year. And even the other pictures that I showed you, out of 365 days in a year, I think at best a fisherman can go fishing about 150 days of the year. It's either because of bad weather or cyclones or something. So even the quantum of, the opportunity that he has to earn a livelihood is very small. And this is just to give you a pictorial depiction of the various kinds of ways in which fish, the methods of fishing. This is the hand line, that's pole and line. So you can see here, you throw it once, you get one fish, right? So that's all you're catching. This is a gill net. You just soak it in the water. You can either soak it closer to the surface or mid-column or like little deeper, and the fish just get entangled in it and it's just left for a couple of hours. So again, the amount of fish that you can catch is little, and it's also very varied. This is an industrial setup. It's called a purse seine. So they go out, like you can see the slides at the bottom. So they go out, they literally target big shoals, which can be hundreds of tons. Once this got onto the boat, they put a net around the boat, then they tie the bottom, and then they just haul all the fish together onto the boat. These are the trawl. This is how trawls are done. So this is really one of the most destructive things, because you have this these boards which basically go along the bottom of the sea. So they really disturb all the the sea floor, and that is actually pulled so that everything that all the fish that are there that are hiding in the at the bottom just sort of get flushed and go into the net. So these are the various kinds of fishing methods that are used, and these more industrialized kinds, which is basically this and this, have the biggest impact on the marine ecosystem. And so that's about the fishing methods, and that's about the different kinds of fishing, and why it's important to also distinguish between the fishermen who have small impacts and the more industrialized fishing that have a lot of impact. And into this you have climate change. So would anybody like to guess what that fish is?
Tuna.
Sorry?
Tuna.
No. So it's a sardine. More specifically, it's an oil sardine. It's one of the it's a very popular fish in Kerala. It's called matti. Matti. And if you speak to Keralites, it's actually an emotion. And but then you also have headlines like this: popular fish sardine is now anti-hero. So if you just go back, you can also see why it's become an anti-hero is because it's skyrocketed to about 300 rupees per kg. So the backstory is that it started becoming rare. So the sort of enigmatic is about this really popular, affordable fish now becoming more enigmatic, and just by supply and demand, the prices have started increasing. And why is this happening? So it's because of climate change, basically, in a nutshell. So ENSO is just El Nino Southern Oscillation. So 2015-16, we had an event like that, and this paper says that was one of the reasons for why oil sardines reduced. So when we talk about climate change and we talk about impact on fisheries, it is, so you can also see, so it is happening, and you also, so if you have the fish, the resource itself that is declining, you also have the the attendant economic and livelihood impacts of that decline of that resource as well. And the other things that also happens with climate change is there's a spatial movement. So oil sardine catches decreased in Kerala, which is on the west coast, but it increased in the east coast, like closer to Tamil Nadu. So suddenly Tamil Nadu fishers started catching a lot of oil sardines and so on. And insights from the west, which is basically I meant from studies that in more like the developed countries, countries in the Western Hemisphere, basically show that fish will move northwards, basically away from the warm tropics. As the waters get hotter, they'll start to move northwards. But then what happens in a place like India, which has land masses to the north of both Bay of Bengal and the Andaman and the Arabian Sea? So they can't go beyond that landmass, or it's just the landmass is going to be a hard limit. And the other ways in which species can cope is they can go deeper, because deeper waters are colder, but there are also physiological limits too. Like a particular species of fish can only be perhaps go till 20 meters and not below that. So then there are also physiological limits up to the depth to which different species of fish can go. So this is, just to summarize and give you an idea of, what climate change is doing to our oceans, and specifically also the resource, which is really important for us from a livelihood perspective, from a food perspective, and so on. And there is more to the story. So till now, I would say that we focused on the people who are catching the seafood, which is the fishermen, and the bigger nested within the larger ocean ecosystem, how climate change is playing a role in that. And at the other end of the spectrum is the seafood consumers. So what are they doing? So how are they impacting? How are their choices of seafood? How they consume it? What impact is that having on the ecosystem itself and on the way the fishers also start responding to that feedback. So we did a short thing. So we wanted to understand how many varieties of seafood do people actually eat, and outside of home, what are the options they have? So suppose they go to restaurants, what are the kind of seafood that eating preferences and choices that they have? And what is the knowledge base in cookbooks? So, I mean, all of us have some, grandmother's recipes that are hand-me-downs, or, cookbooks that have been passed down from generations. And there's also a huge in the cookbook publishing industry. So what are the cookbooks saying? So we very quickly, so we reached out to about 500 respondents. We also sampled restaurant menus, about 400 menus from 4 metros, just to see what were the fish. So for example, on the left one, you can see Nethali fry. Nethali is anchovy. So clearly they've said that, okay, so that would be one. Now, if you see fish fingers, that's again, is not actually telling you what fish they have used. So it could be completely broad. Then Shankara is goatfish, Sura is shark, then like that. So you just keep noting down, crab is separate, if there's prawn, that is separate. So you just sort of noting down in each restaurant, how many varieties of fish are being served. Similarly, from the respondents, how many varieties of fish do they eat on a regular basis? And also, what is the kind of variety in cookbooks that is there? So the average number of species that people eat is 7, ranging from 1 to 18. But India, being a tropical country, there are at least 100 species of edible fish. So you can see how, the really narrow, breadth of species that are being targeted. And just to give you also a little bit of just a word cloud about what was the most common. So of course you can see sailfish in blue right there. Then mackerel, of course, then Indian salmon, that is ravas, crab, prawn, pomfret, squid. So there are some, usual suspects in this cloud that you can see. And all the other stuff that is really tiny that you can't see are also eaten, but very few people actually are, taking advantage of the diversity of seafood that's there. And this is really a tragedy in a sense because we're in a tropical country. If a fisher goes out and he comes back, he will catch more than at least 10 to 12 species. So by just choosing the same popular species or whatever it is again and again, you are incentivizing the fishers to just target those species, and you're not actually rewarding him by buying everything that is actually there on offer. And conversely, if you actually diversify your seafood choices, then the fisherman can also earn more, for whatever he's catching, and that will be helpful because, like I said before, he has to make ends meet, and he has only like 100 or 150 days in a year to make that ends meet. So again, at restaurants, the average number of species is 10. The range is 1 to 29. So there's a huge range, but there's also a lot of species that are being imported. About almost 22% of the species that are featured in these menus are from abroad. Some of the positives is that dried seafood is served, but again a very small number of restaurants, and this is a very important part of people's diet in the past. But nowadays, it is still important for certain economic sections of society, but the other people actually don't really go in for the dry seafood. And the negatives are there's no traceability, basically. Zero traceability. Only one restaurant actually listed the source of ingredients saying that, okay, we got prawns from Andhra Pradesh or something like that. No other restaurant, so you might be eating in a restaurant in Chennai, but it might have been caught on the West Coast or vice versa. So there's just zero traceability. You have no idea of where the fish you are eating was caught. And they're also serving fish eggs, so which is quite counterintuitive because, I mean, only if a fish is able to breed will you have fish for the next generation and so on. So this is another negative, which is bluefin tuna is an endangered species, and these are all endangered species, and these are being served in Indian restaurants. And also shark fins and also shark meat is being served in Indian restaurants. Similarly, for recipe books as well, the average seafood variety that's featured is about 8. The range is 1 to 21, but there's no additional information about the species at all. No, little like a small paragraph about the species saying, you can try this, or some snippets or information which could get people excited about trying new species also. So the real problem is that even though you have such a vast diversity of fish, you're just eating very few. So there was this huge disconnect between producers and consumers, and that's what we just set up to, that's one of the things, that's the thing that we do, which is just make the connections between the producers and then the consumers. This is just a picture of some of the education work that we do with school children, and also the how it is consumed itself in restaurants and so on. So it's one of the first thing that you could do is to eat more diverse seafood. I mean, as strange as it sounds, but like I said before, this is a tropical country and we have a huge diversity of seafood out there. And by eating diverse, you also get different micronutrients because each fish has different micronutrients. So if you eat diverse, you're also eating more nutritively. Eat seasonal. So this is also taking into account the breeding seasons of fishes. So if it's red, that means that's the breeding season, you avoid it, and if it's green, it's okay to be eaten. So and to just give you a pictorial representation, this is a species of fish which are called mouth breeders. All the babies are in its mouth. So imagine if you sort of catch it, and so that's the entire generation that's just gone with the adult. And then the next thing that you should do is you should really support small-scale fishermen because they have the lowest impact on the ocean ecosystem. We also do things like fish explorations, which is we take people to a fishing kupam. We usually go to the lighthouse kupam, and it's just we facilitate engagement between you as a seafood consumer and the fishing community, so that you're breaking down barriers. There are a lot of let's say rumors or things about fishing communities being violent or things like that, which is completely not the case. I mean, so it's to break down these barriers that are there. And we also show you like that day's catch. We explain what is the catch like. If there's a new fish and you haven't come across it before, you can also ask some of the fisher women how to prepare it, how they prepare it. So there's some knowledge transfer about their recipes and how you can sort of incorporate their recipes into your cooking. And so but the thing is, you have to engage with the small scale fishers because, like I said, they have a really small impact on the ecosystem. So it's just 3 very simple things which could make you a more responsible seafood eater, which is eat diverse, eat seasonal, and support small scale fishers. So this is you can just go to the website. That's our website, and here you can select the region, the West Coast or the East Coast. You can select the month, and then you get what is safe to eat and what is avoided. You can just go to the website. All this information is there. It's completely free and things like that. This is more like a season calendar. So you can, so in the month of November, East Coast or West Coast, save and avoid, it'll give you everything that's on offer. This is a little older thing, so that's why you still see, but this has been updated as well. We also have another thing that we do is we also educating people about just the sheer diversity of marine life in India. So we have a web page on the sharks of India, which features all the sharks, most of the sharks, about 70 species that are found in Indian waters, with fun facts about them, and so on. So this you can also go and check out. Then we work with a lot of restaurants, chefs, home cooks about the importance of eating in season, eating diverse, and trying to source from small scale fishermen. Then working with the younger generations, also having some fun things to do with them, like coloring books, and so that they just get interested in the marine environment. And also some snap cards, which is again all these are 13 cards which all feature species that are found in India, but in a very kid-friendly way to get their interest and so on. So so we hope, this is our hope, that this approach supports sustainable fisher folk. So that's the economic aspect, and then you create educated, informed seafood consumers. So, and you also help them take nutritive decisions which are good. And and hopefully all this will also help in maintaining the balance of the oceans, and that's also meeting the ecological goals. So yeah, with that I'd just some picture, and yeah, that's just, if you want to reach out to us, you can. And this is just we do a lot of monthly safe to eat things, posts on our social media. You can, and we also put out snippets about information that is important from a marine conservation perspective. So you can check us out, and that's what it is. So if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
To me, it seems like a great direction to go in. As a vegan, non-fish eater, I feel completely supportive of this the direction. And as somebody who has been in the among the fishing villages.
Please stand.
I was saying, I'm a vegan, and the very sight of all those fish makes my stomach turn. The cooked fish, not the live fish. But I feel this is a right direction to go in. And also, as a turtle walker, one is a lot in the beach. Like today morning, I went to the beach, and when there were a few fishermen, Karikattu Kuppam is the nearest kuppam here. Felt so much at home, and there were a few fishermen who had gone and caught, stood among them and asked them about all the fish. Very friendly. Like you say, there's a lot of myth about how these guys are aggressive or this, that, no, it's completely not true. And in these 25 years of turtle walking, I have never come across, it's always been friendly and very supportive of us and all that kind of stuff. But for me, the thing is, like, I feel this is a great thing, but how does one take it to the masses? I'm also wondering for myself, how to work with you guys as somebody who has a, ground presence, how to reach it to, I think this is, this is the right direction to go in. I'm very clear about that. But how to take it to the thing, like you say, schools, what communities? I don't know. In fact, I feel like asking Paripunam a question here. She was like sitting and wriggling in the chair right through your talk. Saapurdla kuda problem, she asked him. 100% saapurdla man problem. Like, as a fish eater, I want to know what she thinks of this whole thing. I also want to ask Naren, but he went out to smoke, so he missed half the talks, I don't know.
No. Thank you so much for this presentation. It was really wonderful. Um, Actually, I'm not a seafood eater like that, but I never take seafood like that. But it's the same thing, if it comes to farming, it's again a cultivation to you cultivate many things, so I'm definitely unaware of ocean point of view in the ocean ecosystem of this kind of impact, and I'm quite aware of what is happening in the field, like agriculture. This actually made me a bit uncomfortable, like, it's true, definitely it's true.
Yeah.
Any ecosystem is not going to provide a one food to eat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the awareness of having to eat, having to choose the you know I don't know, even right now, anything you eat, it's like, what do you like? That question is like, anybody, it's just so nice, and so proud to say, oh, I like this. It's become so much modern and so much. I don't like this. Also, has become so much of fashion in this world. Like,
Mm.
definitely the other side, eating food has become a problem. The other side is not having a food become a problem, and in
Yeah.
between this, well, I like this, I like that, I don't like this, I like this. I understand. Yeah, it's just new to me in the perspective of ocean. From the viewpoint of ocean. So that was something made me a bit uncomfortable.
You should make you excited, no way uncomfortable.
No, Arun, I think so. We started working with some schools some government schools in Chennai, and it was a shock to us because some of the students had never gone to the beach, even though they're in Chennai. Even though so like, how do you take this to the masses? I mean, it's a question that, yeah, that we ask ourselves a lot. But some of the things that I didn't show is we also work a lot with culinary institutes. So, colleges, hotel management colleges, and so on, because we're targeting the next generation of cooks or people in the food industry who are going to really be important players in a couple of years. So that's something else that we do. So I think what we do is we're trying to focus on people of course, through food. So through home cooks, through chefs and restaurant owners, through students, and also reaching out to children. But that's the outreach work with children is more about the larger marine ecosystem and not just about what to eat and what not to eat. Just to get them engaged and interested about the ocean and the life in it, basically. Um, yeah, and I really like what you said about I don't like. I think it's really yeah, people are becoming very opinionated these days. So so in that sense, how do you tell people that you should also try new things? I think that's one way, try new things. And that's why we also because the fishing communities, they eat almost everything that they catch. So they really know how to prepare different kinds of fish, even other, not just fish, crab, or all the other varieties of seafood that's there in the ocean. So that's why we try to get um, the seafood consumers talk directly with the fishing communities itself, because there's a lot of transparency that comes into the relationship. There are a lot of barriers that get broken down, and I think that's really the first step that you need to start having more deeper engagement and so on. So that's the thing. Then we also had a Pulikat Seafood Festival. This was pre-pandemic. So we had it just worked out. It was so we got chefs, we got people from all the seafood was sourced from the Pulikat fishers, and the women from the fishing communities. It was their recipes, which the chefs adapted, and the festival was in Chennai, in a seafood restaurant in Chennai. So you had this real, like, Oh, yeah, it was, of course, we had TM Krishna coming, and so we had all of those, things as well. But it was fantastic. It was also for a very short time. It was just a Friday dinner, Saturday and Sunday. So that sort of helped also create, I would say, because people knew that it's not going to be there forever. So people really wanted to come and try it. So all of these things, I think, help. Yeah, but yeah, there's no easy. You just have to be at it. Like I think even you just have to stay the course, and like even Shobha was saying that they've been doing this for 18 years, 15 years. You just have to be at it, and I think there's no other option.
I have a question. In millets, in the area of millets and in the area of organic food, there's been the sort of the middle class or the urban moved away from it, but now they seem to be coming back. There's a whole range of organic stores that are accessible. It used to be expensive, but it is coming down. So there is a change in diet that is happening in that whole through the organic movement to millets. So can that be a route through which this kind of change in the seafood diet can be introduced? Because that seems to have had some successes. I think I've heard more people talk about millets in their diet in the past, maybe 5 to 8 years than when I was growing up. So is that a kind of success, a route, something that is that you can look at?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think even from our work, so it's just been 5 years since we've been working on this initiative. So, but there's a lot of, I would say, yeah. So the information that I presented was closer to 2018-19. So, but the idea is also do some sort of a longitudinal study with the respondents and go back to the restaurants and see if the menus have significantly or even marginally for that matter improve the diversity that they're offering. But the problem seems to be to operationalize it. So the key thing is, after talking to a lot of chefs, is one thing that they want consistency. It's okay, I want a fish fillet of this size, right? And so then it's easy for me to cost it, to add my margins to it, to do all of this stuff. But so actually, you call them fishermen, but they're hunters. This is all wild caught fish. I mean, he has no idea what he's going to catch. First of all, he has no idea what size of fish he's going to catch. Second, so for them, then it's what will really work, and what even chefs are saying is that to have fish of the day. So you don't have. So you just basically, if you are connected to a small scale fisherman or a small scale fishing village, you just go that day and see what he has, and that's on your menu that day. Right? Because with crops, I mean, you have a certain area, and it's all, he's an agriculturist. He's sort of taking care of that plot of land. He's nurturing the plants. He's, getting the harvest. But these are all wild caught animals. I mean, so that's and also how do you store it? So that becomes, so then you need a cold chain, and that has, associated carbon footprints. You need ice all the time, or you need it to be below, -5, so that, to meet the food safety requirements. So you have all of these added complexity because it's meat. So I think the simplest thing would be to, like I was saying, just have it, like you make this connection, and, you have a very good rapport with, the fishers, and whatever he catches, you serve that day. It's fresh. I mean, and fresh seafood it tastes amazing. I mean, you literally taste the sea in it. I mean, it's great. I'm not like Arun. I'm also not I don't eat a lot of seafood. I work on it, and I've seen too much. But it is something that really tastes good.
Just see, addressing consumers is obviously a good thing, but I feel like a large portion of what is caught is going for export, and that's like a bottomless pit. From the policy side, the fisheries department, they take pride in more fish you catch, the better their whatever is records are. So in this scenario, how do you go about making changes at the sea, at the trawler level? Because I feel that's most significant. Is there even a department to look after this, or what has been your experience working with the government?
So it's about 1% of India's GDP, the whole fisheries sector. So like you said, obviously, I mean, the way government is structured, you have to show, like year-on-year growth. But it's not possible because this is a wild system, and I mean, there are cycles of, when you have really low catches and then again it picks up and so on. But just expecting this to happen year on year, decade on decade is not, as you can see as well, our catches have come down. So exports, it's very difficult. Like I was saying, you have to ensure there's a cold chain completely from, to meet the food safety requirements. So that's another aspect. And one more thing I wanted to say.
Regulations at the trawler level?
See, regulations at the... There are regulations, but it's not enforced. So the problem seems to be that we have, like I was saying, there are about 70 species of sharks in India, and only few of them are, in the Wildlife Protection Act. And the enforcers are not really equipped with the tools to identify which shark is which. So an easier way would be there are some species of sharks which are very easily identifiable. So maybe you can, and they're also threatened. So you can start with those. You can train the enforcers to, but then the flip side is it just goes underground. So what is being landed will just go underground. So you won't even know that it's being caught. So with the whale sharks, that's happened a lot. So even on the Chennai coast and on Mumbai and all that, there have been a couple of instances when whale sharks were caught and they were brought to the harbor, and the fishing captain was, there were charges filed against him and all of that. So now I think then the CMFRI also undertook some awareness about whale sharks and things like that. In Gujarat, that's been a huge success story. The whale shark conservation that WTI had launched. But it was also a very well managed, very well run campaign. So that's had some results. So and they're also, so it's very iconic. It's very easily to identify, and so I think at least that's one species which I think fishers will not maybe catch. But there's just one species. But like I'm saying, it's iconic, it's easily identifiable. So like that, there are other sharks that are also easily identifiable, like the scalloped hammerheads. So they're very easy to identify. You have about 3 species of hammerheads, but all of them are, endangered. So you can start with those. But the government, I mean, I don't know. But you have to engage with them. The quantity, exactly. So one is, like you're saying, it's the quantity that's being exported, but the second is also the quantity that is being made into fish meal for aquaculture. So that is another thing that we didn't touch upon at all, which is aquaculture, which is like agriculture, but aquaculture for fish, prawn, and so on. And most of the meal or the feed, the aquaculture feed, is wild caught seafood that is just powdered and stuff like that. So if somebody tells you that okay, I know that the marine seafood is going down, but I'll eat aquaculture instead. But you can tell them that a lot of the feed that goes for aquaculture is actually coming from the ocean itself. Some of the fish that are too small, it also gets converted to poultry feed. So it's your chickens are also eating this, and so the kind of linkages that have happened over the last couple of decades, because essentially of industrial fishing, which you just catch what you just first of all it's not a targeted fishery. So a targeted fishery is you go in, you know that okay, I'm going to catch, okay, at least I want to catch this, and you might catch something else that also happened to get caught. But with these other kind of industrial fishing, you just go, you put the net, and you just get everything that you catch. So you are not distinguishing between what you wanted, what has good market value, or anything. So what has good market value you will keep aside, the rest of it will just be made into poultry feed or be made into aquaculture feed and things like that. So yeah, but you just have to keep engaging with them, and I think it has to be a policy of, so even for example near Kovalam they caught a sawfish. I don't know when was the last time we had a sawfish that was sort of reported off the East Coast, at least in this part. So again, a case was filed, but now the fishers know that okay, this is protected, because it's also very, very easily distinguishable. Yeah, it's a species that you can easily identify. So it has a long thing, and it has teeth on that. So it's just like a saw. That's the name. That's why it's called the sawfish. But but it was caught.
So I'm trying to understand. So when you said this going for local fishermen connection, right? So I'm kind of getting, if it's, definitely if it's a vegetable that you can definitely keep it in the fridge, you go and buy from a farmer, let's say he is producing 5 or 6 variety of different vegetables, and you get it and, you use it for a week. But how this, it sounds a bit complex. If let's say the consumer is going to get what the fisherman, whatever he got, actually how many is the households going and supporting the farmers, fishermen, or any hotels that get fish from a fisherman like that? How does that linkage works? Practically. That's that's how my question is.
Yeah. So we try to make these connections, like I said, even if it's a restaurant who wants to source, locally caught seafood. But even, let's say, for example, I was telling you about these things that we have called fish explorations. We take people to these fishing kuppams. So we go to Lighthouse Kuppam, and there itself, if you're familiar with Marina, so after the lighthouse you take the left, and then the road immediately goes right, and most mornings you'll have a fish market that's opened. So you will clearly see that there are a bunch of stalls with tables on the left, and you'll also find a lot of fishermen, who just put a plastic tarpaulin on the road, and some of them are even still removing fish from the net and all that, and they'll be selling. So this side fish is the Casimedo fish, which is like the trawler fish, and it's been stored with ice for. So the trawlers, they go on 14-day trips, 21-day fishing trips. So whatever you catch, it's complete. It's very stale food. Seafood. It's just there because of the ice that's there. But on the other hand, so you can literally tell that this is not fresh at all. And on the right side, like I was saying, you will see the fishermen still removing all the seafood, all the fish and all that. That will be really fresh. So right there, you can make the distinction. Like if you're a consumer, you can, instead of going here, you can go there and you can buy. And we are there to help people, how to make these choices and so on. We've bought fish, and also the akkas, we get it cleaned by the akkas itself. So they remove the scales, they cut the fins, they remove everything from inside, and then you can just put it in your freezer and it stays. And that also gives them, that is essentially what, so typical, I mean, in the fishing communities, it's very gendered in the sense that the men fish and the women sell. So in that sense, women always held the purse strings. So, so now also you have, if you get, if you buy it and if you get it cleaned from the akkas and so on, so then you are sort of, you're contributing to that economy in some way, and you can just wash it when you go home. You can just put it in the freezer and it'll stay. But like I was saying, if the idea is, if you're a restaurant and you want to buy a whole lot, so again it just completely depends on the resource. So there have been days when there'll be 5 vanjarams, let's say, even in Urur Olcott Kuppam, there'll be 5 vanjarams, and then there'll be many days where there'll be nothing. So you have to, that's why I was saying that, it's about serving the catch of the day, or, serving the, not really having a fixed menu, because you have to incorporate the variability of the sea into what you're doing, into your operations.
So there was a point of supporting small scale fishermen because they don't affect the ecosystem too much. But the thing is, if we start supporting the small scale fishermen, so it's their business, so they will try to increase their business, they will move into the large scale fishing, right? So how to make them understand to stay in that small scale fishing thing?
So actually, on the west coast, there are a lot of, it's a community managed fishery, and this is basically what I've learned from my wife, because she did her PhD on the fisheries in the west coast, which is basically Ratnagiri, Sindhudurg districts of Maharashtra. So they have very clear rules about who can fish, about when you can fish, what gear you can use, and which time of the year you can fish there. So there are rules, there are community rules. They've all sat together. They have decided that this is a resource that is finite. It's not infinite, it's finite. We need to manage it so that we can continue to earn our livelihoods from this resource. So this is again, how there have been many cases now about how commons, which is a resource which belongs to nobody and everybody, how is that managed? So there are these rules which they have come up, and if anybody breaks the rule, the whole community stops fishing for that day. Okay, they meet in a temple, because you will not lie in front of God. Okay, they meet in a temple, and then the person who's made that mistake, who's broken the rule, has to explain himself as to why he did it in front of the whole community. So think about it. So they're all, like I said, you have very few fishing days in a year, 100 to 150. So they're foregoing an entire day's livelihood to make sure to enforce the rules that they have come up with. So, and even if you talk to the trawlers now, they know that the fishing resource has gone down. They know, because they're the ones who go out every day, and they've had these boom years where they've caught a lot, they've made a lot of money, and now they're just not making any money. So and like I said, you have to take it in perspective, and of course everybody's aspirational, right? Like, why wouldn't you want a better life for yourself and for your kids? But you also have to look at, if you've ever gone to a fishing kuppam, they live very simple lives. It's a very, capital intensive thing. Even these small scale fishers, they have to invest in nets, they have to invest in hooks, They have to repair their outboard motors. They need diesel or whatever fuel to run those outboard motors. And and also with increasing variability in weather, many of them lose their lives when they go out fishing, and there's no early warning system for them. So I feel it's very unreasonable, I think, to say that they have to keep a restriction on their aspirations and things like that. I think we have far more impacts than them.
For example, in West Bengal, so earlier days there was a thing like from starting of the rainy season to the starting of the winter, the autumn. So during that time, you should not eat hilsa because it's their breeding time. But nowadays, people are still catching hilsa during that period of time also. So it's reducing the population of the hilsa. So how to stop those things?
I don't know. So I know that Bangladesh has been trying, because it's one of their major exports. So they have a lot of skin in the game to make sure that the hilsa fishery is viable and so on. So they have actually banned hilsa fishery during the time that you've mentioned and so on. But I don't know. Yeah. I think, I'm optimistic that we will get there. It'll take time, but we will get there. I'm optimistic. Let's see.
No, but I would like to answer the earlier question. Somebody who has engaged as in have some relationship with a small fisherman. I think we're talking about two different animals, The small fishermen are not the big fishermen, and as in the big fishermen are not fishermen at all. They are business people. The big fishing boats are owned by business people. They are owned by politicians. They are owned by guys who have big money to invest in that business. Finally, the people who are going on that boat may be actually from the fishing community, but they are going as labor. They are not the people who own the thing. So it's not like these guys become bigger and suddenly become a trawler owner. It's not like that. Trawler owners are a totally different ball game. And these guys, they're, like he said, they are not so much fishermen as hunters. They are actually hunter-gatherers living in a city, We don't understand that they are going out, like you say, with the risk of their lives, open to the elements. Like I say, Palayamana was trying to say, there's a thunderstorm, there's a cyclone, you're in the sea. You're out by yourself. You have to fend for yourself. Their life is completely on a different, civilizational space than our lives are. Simply they're living in the city, so we can make it feel like we are, and there's something that we share. We share a physical space, but their life is so completely, so different that it's difficult to imagine to somebody who has not been there to, understand what their lives are like. And they're quite fiercely that way independent. They're quite proud of their, like yesterday, man was very proud of their whole knowledge and culture and all that. And I think it's beautiful. I think the sight of a man standing on his boat as it's going up and down, standing like that, facing the sea is quite something, because, as humans we are so, not living in the body and living with courage and living with the might of what one can do is quite something. It's a telling thing when most people come on the turtle walk and they see these guys going out at night at 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock, they're all stunned because for the fishermen live by the night, they don't live by the day, When our walk is finishing, they'll be coming back. That's the time they'll be coming back. So most of the thing they do is at the night. So it's a totally different life, something to understand, So I feel they are two different things.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.